Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday. We are talking about leading from inspiration instead of fear. Welcome to all the replay viewers. Hey to everybody who's watching on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited about today. I want to start with a story. I took my daughter, who's never skated before, this is roller skating. To my daughter, who's never roller skated before, to a friend's birthday party last year. And of course, it was roller skating. And so we got there and she was really excited. Like the whole time, she's like, I've never roller skated. And you know how it is, right? When you've never done something and you're 9 years old and you're like, I'm going to love it. It's going to be amazing, right? So I take her to roller skating with her friends. And a lot of her little friends, some of the little friends were like going around the rink like really slowly and hanging on the side of the wall, right? Have you ever done that? But then some of the friends were going around the rink really quickly, really fast, right? And she was like, oh, I want to do that. So she gets on her roller skates. Now, before we even get in like the roller skating rink, and by the way, I can't roller skate, okay? But anyway, before we even get in the roller skating rink, she's already like slipping and sliding on her skates, like on the carpet, right? Before you get in. So anyway, I'm holding on to her and I can at least stand up, but barely. And I get in there with her and we go really slowly and she wants to keep going faster and faster, right? But she keeps falling down. Then she gets frustrated. So every time she feels her feet starting to slip or slide, right? She has to kind of get her balance, pause, stop, right? And just kind of settle down and get her balance. And so this is just it's a true story, but it's a metaphor for what we're going to talk about today, where we're going to come up against challenges as leaders. And we're all leaders. We're going to come up against challenges. We talked about challenges. When you face a challenge that you cannot change, you've got to change your perspective, right? When we come up against these challenges, we're going to get rattled, or at least there's potential to get rattled. But we have to get our balance, okay? And we're going to be looking today, we have been looking at David and Saul and Jonathan. But today we're going to look in Acts chapter 16 at Paul and Silas. Now, a lot of you know the story about Paul and Silas where they go somewhere and they get imprisoned because people get mad at them. They get stripped and they get beaten. It says they're severely beaten. And wrongly, like there's nothing, they did anything wrong. They get thrown into the most inner part of the dungeon, which I'm sure, especially back then, 2,000 years ago, was a really gross place. And it's midnight, it says in verse 25 of chapter 16, and Paul and Silas start worshiping God. Okay, they're singing at midnight after being, I would either be asleep or if it was too disgusting, I would be shivering cold, right? Might be complaining, might be saying to God, God, why? I thought you wanted us to go like on a missionary journey. We were trying to do something for you and you got us here. But they're worshiping. And it says that suddenly there was an earthquake, all the doors opened, their chains came off. And not only did the chains come off of Paul and Silas, but the chains came off of every other prisoner in the prison. The guard got really scared. And the end of the story is that the guard comes to know Jesus. I don't know that it says this, but you could almost assume the prisoners come to know Jesus, right? Hello. Thanks for coming back. Things happen, right, to the prisoners. So it's a very short story. It's a very simple story, but it's obviously a very powerful story because you've got something really bad that's happening to these guys and they've got a choice to make. And that's what's going to happen to us as we're going on our journey in life, as we face challenges, we go after our dreams, as we want to lead. And I want you to lead and I want me to lead from inspiration and not fear. Fear is going to come at us. They got beaten, they got stripped, right? Thank you for inviting followers. They get beaten, they got stripped, they got put in jail. Fear is going to come at us. Challenges are going to come at us. And we've got to regain our balance. We can't let it defeat us. So just like my daughter who's out there roller skating around the rink and just falling, get up, falling, get up, falling, get up. When you almost start to fall, you got to get your balance, right? So I got kind of a last story to close this up. I live in North Carolina now, on a mountain in North Carolina. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, but I lived in Taiwan, Taipei, Taiwan. For about 7 years. And when I first went there, I was just 21 years old. I'm 37 now. Now you know my age. Hello. But I was 21, and it was my first time ever being like a long-term missionary somewhere. And it was the first time that the church that I went to had ever had a missionary. And we were in a small town. It was really small back then. That was like 15 years ago. But they had never had a mission. So I didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with me. And there was nothing really planned. And so I kind of started getting like, lonely and confused and like, what am I doing here, God? And so there'd be a lot of times where I just get on my knees and I would worship. Well, that was mostly in my apartment. But one day I ended up getting on my knees and worshiping on the sidewalk on one of the busiest streets in Taipei at rush hour. And so here's the story. Somebody from the church didn't tell me where we were going, but got me on a bus and then another bus and another bus and took me to this place. And I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't speak Mandarin Chinese back then. And they took me to this, I didn't even know what it was, but it turned out to be a business and they taught English and I didn't know that at the time. And remember, I'm 21. And they start signing these contracts and stuff and then they call me over. I've just been waiting, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just here. And they say, sign this contract. And I'm like, I'm not, what? I'm not signing that contract. I don't even know what that is, right? I mean, I'm like, I'm scared, right? I've not experienced enough of life to not be scared, right? So I was scared. I was like, no, I'm not signing that contract. I do not want to, I want to see my lawyer, right? So they were frustrated and they were like, oh, fine, we just did all this work for you, but fine. And I didn't know what they were saying. So anyway, we leave there. I haven't signed anything. We go back to the bus stop. I'm standing next to this lady. It was a very nice lady, but at the time I thought she was crazy. And I'm standing next to this lady and we're waiting for the bus to come. And I've just kind of had what felt like a traumatic experience to me. Now you're going to think I'm crazy. Okay. But I get out my headphones, which I always carried in my little backpack. They were big headphones. I got my CD player, portable CD player, no iPod or iPhone back then. I push play, jack up the volume. I say to the lady next to me, I motioned to her because I don't know that she understood everything I was saying. I was like, let me know when the bus gets here. I get down on my knees on the sidewalk, busiest street in Taipei, tons of people. They're getting out of work. It's 5 o'clock. Walking all around us. I get on my knees. I put my hands up in the air. I close my eyes. I start singing, and I cannot sing. I cannot sing. I start singing really loudly to my favorite worship song, and even tears coming out of my eyes. Not because I was so scared, but just like when I really worship, I get tears because I'm like, wow, God's so awesome. Now, I'm not saying that was the best way to respond at that time. I was really young and really like crazy, right? But what I am saying is that there are times in life when you get scared where you got to recalibrate, right? It's like when you're driving somewhere and you've got your little thing telling you where to go and you miss the turnoff and it says recalculating. You got to recalculate. You got to get your balance back, right? And when you do that, here's the deal. If you recalibrate, if you get your balance back in the face of challenges, okay, whatever you're pursuing, whatever you're trying to do, whatever challenges are facing you today, okay, you got friends at school not being nice to you, you got people at work who are not being nice to you, you got a big challenge in your family, somebody's sick, your kids, you're trying to raise them right. You've got a big dream, you've got a big goal, and you want to pursue it, you want to achieve it, but sometimes it looks like too big of a mountain to climb. You got to recalibrate. Remember, when you can't change the challenge, you change the perspective. And a big way to change the perspective, I believe, and I've experienced, is through worship, okay? And so that's what Paul and Silas did. That's what I did. And what we know that happened with Paul and Silas is not only did it recalibrate them and balance them out, it inspired others. Other people came to know Jesus. Other people were set free. It says in verse, 26, all the doors immediately flew open and the chains of every prisoner fell off, even though those were the only two worshiping. Well, I want to tell you the end of my story. I kept doing that kind of worship on the sidewalk sometimes when I just felt it at different places in Taiwan. It was kind of crazy, but I kept doing it. And one of the youth pastors of our church that I was at kind of saw me one time and he just thought it was interesting. And it was from my heart and there were tears and all this. And he asked me to come and do that worship in front of his youth group. And there were like 80 kids in his youth group. And I said, oh, okay. And I brought like a little pillow that I always used at home to put my knees on. I got on my knees in front of the youth group. I put on my headphones. I mean, I was nervous. I was a little Stevie Wonder, right? Nervous, but swaying my head, getting into the song, getting into the worship, getting in the spirit. And I started worshiping, my hands in the air, crying tears. I met with God. I connected with God. You've got to have more than a calling. You've got to be focused on the one who called you, right? And as I got focused on him, I got lost in him and I worshiped. And I looked up at the end of the song and there were there were kids who were really impacted to see somebody truly on this earth reach up and touch heaven and connect with God. So, this is a pretty simple message today. I just want to encourage you as you want to lead from inspiration and not fear, as you want to do things consistently, as you want to pursue your goals and dreams, you've got to find a way when challenges come, especially big ones, to recalibrate, to balance, right? So you don't fall over, or if you do fall over, so you can get back up and stay steady and stay strong. And when you find that and you're able to even worship during the challenges, you'll not only help yourself, you'll inspire others. All right, hopefully that inspires you today. Thanks everybody for joining me. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.